Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
We want to start out the show by thank you today. I received something very nice from our loyal listeners in Georgia.
All right.
Marguerite, Ed, and as he also signed Mother Teresa. They get up here to State College a couple times a year, but Marguerite and Ed are two wonderful people that listen to the podcast all the time, listen to games all the time. Gave me something very, very nice. So that was nice. Which they don't have to do. And nobody has to do it. I was just very appreciative to have wonderful people like that I consider to be friends. And Marguerite and Ed are absolutely that. So thank you so much for that, and I appreciate it very much. I don't complain usually about awards.
I know where you're going on this one. You have a right to complain. No doubt about it.
But one of the reasons is, like, I'm more of a love of the game person. Mm-hmm. Hey, you know what? I just love the game. But they came out, and the Broyles Award goes to the top assistant. Now, It doesn't matter to me who wins the darn thing.
Right.
Okay. But they put out the finalists for the Broyles Award. And I sat there and went, you got to be kidding me. Here are the 5 finalists. Sharon Moore.
Of course.
The offensive coordinator for Michigan, who's been head coach most of the time this season anyway, at least half the time he's been the head coach. Right? And also does a great job of crying in post games. Mm-hmm. Without question, Phil Parker deserves to be one of the 5 finalists. I mean, the pressure that Phil Parker is under, and I'm not making a joke here. I'm trying to be serious about the pressure Phil Parker is under every time at Iowa to essentially do everything you can to pitch a shutout.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I've talked about why does Iowa play in the secondary the way they play. The reason they do is they can't afford to have anybody get behind them. Now, in the Nebraska game, it happened one time. They got burned. The rest of the game, no. But Iowa doesn't generate enough offense. No. You're talking about Iowa this year, including punt returns, interception returns, field goals, only generated 216 points this year, 18 points a game. And they're 10-2.
I'm stunned. They have that many points per game. It's just they have been absolutely inept.
Well, that includes 41. 41 of those points were against Western Michigan.
That's right. That's true.
41 were.
Yeah, they were.
So the other 11 games, you take that out of there.
Take that away.
You're talking 185 points, right? No, it's 175 points in the other 11 games. 175 points in the other 11 games. Really?
Yeah, that's
175 points in 11 games.
That offense is absolutely
LSU offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock. Okay, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Will Stein, the offensive coordinator at Oregon. Yeah, you got Bo Nix, and then Georgia offensive coordinator Mike Bobo. Okay. Meanwhile, Manny Diaz didn't get mentioned.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. We've had, and I won't name names because they wouldn't want me naming them, but there's Penn State beat writers calling it a joke, and they're right. They're absolutely right. I don't know how on earth you don't have. You look at the 2 Penn State losses this year to Ohio State. That wasn't on the defense.
No.
Offense to Michigan. That wasn't on the defense. And granted, look, I don't put blame anywhere, but you look at what this unit is, a championship unit. And it's because of the coordinator. A lot. Right. Talent helps, absolutely.
Again, this is a finalist. I'm not talking about whether he wins the award or not. Okay?
No, there's three of those 5 names you named. 2 of the 5 at least deserve to be on there.
I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of really talented assistant coaches out there. But
yeah,
what? really? I mean, everything this defense has done, they played championship level defense all year. And I know there's a bunch of media people that vote for this.
Half of them don't watch the games.
No,
they don't watch the games at all.
I mean, I try to be very careful with how I vote. And part of how I vote is not only what I see in person, because I vote for the All Big Ten teams.
Sure.
And I did that. I actually did that in Orlando Saturday night. I voted. I think they're announcing the results, starting to announce the results today and tomorrow are the 2 days. But it's not just what I see in person. I'm talking about other, Penn State opponents, but it's also like all the tape you watch to get ready for games. And then if there's a couple players for Nebraska defensively, the defensive end number 9 is a heck of a player. So they're like, you're looking around like just to make sure you're not missing anybody. Right. You may not vote them first team, but you want to make sure somewhere. Hey, I have to vote for 12 defensive linemen. Okay, let's just be careful here. Make sure we're not missing anybody. And this is, but again, that's one of those that made no sense to me.
No, it makes absolutely no sense to me. I can't name 5 assistants that have done a better job than Manny Diaz at all.
No. But when Manny's out there, he's representing Penn State. He's representing Anthony Poindexter. He's representing Terry Smith. He's representing Deion Barnes. I mean, it's you're talking about the whole staff.
Sure.
Encapsulated. With one lead guy there.
Yeah.
So I saw that today, and again, I don't normally mention about. I don't really care who wins the Cy Young Award, the NFL MVP, whomever wins the Broyles Award. If it happens to be a Penn State person, great. When Saquon Barkley won the Paul Hornung Award, hey, that was great because I just like the recognition for the people who
deserve it.
Absolutely. But if they don't win it, I don't usually complain about it because it's a choice. Penn State's had one Heisman winner. It's not like other people like Kanjana Carter when Rashaan Salam won it. Okay, but you know what? That's the way it played out.
Yeah, and it's also reaching the point now. Not necessarily at that point. Well, I think what hurt 1994 was Carter and Collins both so good.
Split the vote.
Yeah, exactly. They split the vote. But and the other part of it, to me, the Heisman nowadays, I would be hard-pressed to, I don't want to say ever, but I'm not sure we're ever going to have a back-to-back winner. I think at this point, the Heisman Award has gotten so much PR behind it, more so than it has the talent of the player on the field. Right. I don't want to say it's completely hurt the award, but it's not helped it in any way.
No, and that's... It's interesting how it let's take the Heisman, how it plays out. Now, I'm not allowed to have a Heisman vote because I am paid by Penn State to broadcast the games. But the oddity is I'm allowed to have a Wooden Award vote, which I do have. I've had a Wooden Award vote for, 38 years maybe. I've had a Wooden Award vote for College Basketball Player of the Year. And it was a lot of fun for me last year. For the first time ever, I was able to put a Penn State.
Put a Penn State,
I did not, and I did not put Jalen in the one position. Right. I voted for Zach Edey.
Yeah,
right. And like I said, you want to be fair as to how you vote. This is not a. This is For example, I look out there and hey, I'm looking at linebackers. Yeah, Curtis Jacobs, Abdul Carter. Well, how about Tommy Eichenberg and Javi? He's a heck of a player over at Ohio State. How about the linebacker Junior Colson over at Michigan? Okay, you start. You want to make sure that the right people are getting the right votes. And I think it's the only fair thing to do is to be fair as to how you vote.
Absolutely.
Along the way, because the young people who are playing deserve fairness.
Agreed.
And same thing. I do the same thing with basketball. Basketball just doesn't take as long. Football, you need to vote for 3 centers, okay? Now we're going to vote for 6 guards. Okay, now we're going to vote for 6 tackles. We're going to vote for 6 running backs, 3 tight ends, 3 quarterbacks. Then you get defense. 12 defensive linemen, 12 defensive backs, 9 linebackers. Now you start going through like, it's like you get to the one, 12. Okay. Because I know they're doing 3 teams. I've got that part. That's why it's 12 defensive backs, 12 defensive linemen. Like, okay, 12. All right. And then you see everybody, you can write in people, if you want to. And then you have to vote for Coach of the Year. You have to vote for 3, 1, 2, 3. And I'm trying to think, Freshman of the Year? Yeah, we do have to vote for Freshman.
I was going to say, I think you should probably, yep.
Like there's one thing that we vote for as media, and the coaches vote for another one. So we get to go for Coach of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Freshman of the Year. I'm trying to think if they vote. I don't know. Maybe because I think this year we voted for Lineman of the Year or something like that. Did do that, but yeah. There's something in basketball too that the coaches vote on that we don't vote on. I can't remember what that is. Maybe it's Sixth Man or something like that. Like, okay. But yeah. So there we are with I looked at that and went,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
That doesn't
there's nothing
that doesn't sit right with me. And again, it's not just Manny. Manny represents Anthony Poindexter. He represents Terry Smith. Right. He represents Deion Barnes. He represents James Franklin. He represents Penn State. And that defense was too good.
Incredible. Yeah.
To not have their coach represent everybody as one of the finals for the whether it wins it or not, that's another.
There's two. There's at least 2 on that list that I knew were going to be on that list. Right. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. 3rd one, not surprised. 4th one, not surprised. LSU, but 4 of the 5, I think you clearly know. And obviously, the job that Oregon has done in the past 2 seasons with Bo Nix has been remarkable. If you saw what he did at Auburn, you saw potential. You didn't see that potential reached.
But this is what's interesting about the Stein part of it. That's not who brought Bo Nix in.
No.
Okay,
nope.
The head coach at Arizona State was his quarterback coach that brought him in and coached him last year.
Yep.
Stein stepped in this year and did a heck of a job.
Did a great job. Absolutely. What they've done with Nix as a whole.
He is not the guy that brought him in. He is not the guy that developed him last year at Oregon. It's the head coach at Arizona State. It doesn't mean this guy didn't do a great job because he did.
Yeah. I think you could make the argument. I think he's probably in the top 3, I would say, for Heisman. I think there's no question.
Oh, yeah. He may win. They play well on Friday.
They play well enough on Friday.
He may win it.
Yeah, I think so. Because Daniels has played well. I don't know if I would put him as the winner, but I personally would put Marvin Harrison as the winner, but the wide receiver has to absolutely. It's more problem with that award. The wide receiver has to literally have the most astronomical year you've ever seen in the sport, as if he's only playing solely wide receiver, which Marvin Harrison is doing, and he has 1 bad game. Forget about it. And that's another one of the many issues I have with the Heisman Trophy. That's another one. Because I think if you're going to ask me who's the best player in the country, it's Marvin Harrison Jr.
Well, that's why I will give, and maybe it's ESPN that did this. I don't know. I think they're the ones that through the Home Depot show came up with all the Jim Thorpe Award and things like that, and encapsulated it into one night. Yep. That way, the top defensive back is recognized, the top linebacker is recognized, top running backs with the Doak Walker Award is recognized, the Blitnikoff Award at wide receiver, the Mackey Award at tight end. The Maxwell is a different. It's a National Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Like Nagurski's National Defensive Player of the Year, a Bednarik Award, the Lombardi Award, the Outland Trophy, things like that. It's great they have all these awards for each spot because that Heisman spot has transitioned from being running back to being quarterback. Who's the top quarterback?
Yeah.
It's about what it's come down to. So usually the Davey O'Brien Award winner appears to have a leg up.
Yep.
It's like winning best screenplay at the Academy Awards. Gee, I wonder what movie might win.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. And look, this did not. And you talk about it with those awards, how long they've been around. This didn't just happen, 3 years ago. I go back to Larry Fitzgerald's season. Yeah. He was the Heisman Trophy winner. To me, Jason White obviously won it. Fitzgerald had as good of a wide receiver year as I've seen until now. I think Marvin Harrison has had. Yeah. Probably as good of a season as anyone.
We'll see if he even gets to New York. They haven't announced the New York finalist yet. Which is fine. Whatever. I just kind of like roll with the punches.
Exactly.
Whatever.
Yeah, we see with our own two eyes sometimes some of these players and what they do against great teams. That's.
Yeah, every once in a while, I'll say something about an award. This is one of the times I looked at it and went, "What?" I said, "Excuse me. What are you watching?"
Yeah, I don't understand it.
I don't know what you're watching out there.
You knew beyond a shadow of a doubt Michigan was going to have a nominee. That was clear as day. That's especially now.
Look,
and look, he's coached, 7 games? 6 games? 6 games?
6.
Yeah, first 3. Yep, so 6 games. And
he's coached half the season.
So half the season. So I get that one. Absolutely. Yeah, Iowa, as you said, my goodness, I still can't. I joke that they've set offensive college football back 20 years. They have.
It's interesting. The game, they won over Rutgers 22-0. To be honest with you, Jason, I watched the tape because Penn State was playing Rutgers next.
Following week,
Brian Ferentz called a really good game. Now, you have to execute what they call.
Yeah.
But Brian Ferentz called a really good game that day. And that, again, I always try to give credit where I think credit is due.
Sure.
I don't try to – I'm not a person that goes on narratives.
Mm-hmm.
I can look at that game and went, okay. Then I watched the Nebraska game. Mercy me. That was just like –
yeah.
I mean, that game was the equivalent of watching the train wreck scene with the bus and the fugitive. Where you couldn't pull your eyes away from it, even though it was
that's absolutely right.
And the end sequence summed up the game. Right, Hill goes back to pass, throws. Let's face it, a bad pass gets picked off. Nebraska's like, great. So now Nebraska, Purdy goes back, and this is Brock Purdy's brother. Goes back. They run a zone blitz. They drop the defensive end Hackett into coverage. He throws it right to him. He runs it back, and then because the regular kicker, who's been terrific all year, missed a couple of kicks, they run out the backup kicker, whom they claimed had a great week of practice, and from 2 yards, barely clears the crossbar to win the game. I mean,
meanwhile, you have a guy in Philadelphia hitting a 59-yarder would have been good from 65.
He had a great
rain.
He had a great week of practice. Meanwhile, the pros out there, 59 yards in the rain, everything's flying all over the place, the wind swirling. Right? And you're like, yeah, let's go to overtime. We're all set. We're all done. Like, well, I guess that's why he's a pro. Like, okay. That game is just wow. Okay, so now the the Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It looks like Julius Peppers is finally on there, along with Antonio Gates. Peppers played basketball.
Yeah, I remember this.
Against Penn State in the NCAA tournament. Had a career high 19 when Penn State won the game. Gates had been on Kent State, but missed playing against Penn State in the NIT when he played basketball there. 8 players who made to the final stage of 15 in 2023 return as semifinalists. Jared Allen, Dwight Freeney, Devin Hester, Andre Johnson, Torrey Holt, Patrick Willis, Willie Anderson, Darren Woodson. The other semifinalists are Eric Allen, Anquan Bolden, Jari Evans, London Fletcher, tackling machine.
It really was.
Eddie George, James Harrison, Rodney Harrison, Robert Mathis, Steve Smith Sr., Fred Taylor, Hines Ward, Ricky Waters, Reggie Wayne, and Vince Wilfork. The 28 semifinals will be reduced to 15 finalists before the final voting process in January. 15 finalists will then be trimmed to 10, and then 5 get selected. To me, the Pro Football Hall of Fame one is the single most difficult one to get into.
I agree. And it used to be baseball. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, baseball's difficult, but you're allowed to vote for 10 people.
You're allowed to vote for, exactly.
You're about to vote for 10.
Yep.
But you're talking about, okay, there are 25 now. It's up to 26 on each team. Pro football's hard because there's 45 people on each team.
Yeah.
And there's even more teams. And only 5 get in?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there are guys on this list that are not going to get voted for that, to me, are Hall of Famers. And that's you talk about London Fletcher. I think London Fletcher and Jared Allen both are probably Hall of Famers. They're not getting in on this time around, I don't think.
Well, I mean, you're going to ask yourself, what kind of college career for you? I mean, Peppers had a great college career at North Carolina, and then he played basketball, and he played well in basketball.
Yep.
What kind of college career did Gates have? How about none? Gates only played basketball at Kent State. He did not play football.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I can't name 3 to 5 special team, especially return men, better than Devin Hester. Hester was phenomenal.
He had 9 returns for touchdowns in his career, including one, and then he had one in the Super Bowl on top of it.
Yep.
When the Bears lost to the Colts.
Yep.
4 finalists previously announced are Buddy Parker in the coaching category. Buddy Parker quietly had a great coaching career with the. I was just in Detroit. All those championship banners. They got 4 championship banners up there. I think he's responsible for 3 of them. Randy Gradishar, linebacker for Denver. Steve McMichael of the Bears, and Art Powell, who played for the Raiders.
I think Mongo's the thing with Mongo is the defense he played on. That's I think one thing could keep him.
But see, I think that I hear that argument all the time. There are too many Steelers, too many Cowboys.
And that's the problem. And it shouldn't be an argument, but it is.
It's an individual honor. How good were you?
Absolutely.
Okay. Does it matter that 8 other people in your defense are in?
Yeah.
How good are you? Andy Russell should be in the Hall of Fame.
No doubt about it.
Right? But he's not in the Hall of Fame because Lambert and Jack Ham are both in?
Yeah. Well, that's why Roger Craig's not in the Hall of Fame because of where he played.
Roger Craig should absolutely be in the Hall of Fame.
There's no question about it.
That's why I'm glad with individual teams. For example, a guy that's not a Hall of Fame player but was one of the smartest players, Mike Wagner. Mike Wagner was incredible out there. So smart. Used his brain to go. It's not like Mike is not an athlete. I mean,
sure.
I mean, there have been times where we've gone out and played golf. Mike's joined us, so I mean, it's like, like I don't know Mike, I do. And Mike used his brain and was a good enough athlete in the league, and became a better player in the league because he could get the extra step and a half. Sure. There are a lot of guys that get into that. At least teams have their own halls of fame, which is great. Yeah. Mike's in that.
Deserve it. Yep.
But
there's a lot of guys on this list that I think are exactly that. Hines Ward, prime example. Absolutely. And Steelers Hall of Fame, I don't put him in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Right.
Yeah. Reggie Wayne, another one. I don't put him in the. Ricky Waters is an interesting one because I think he is a Hall of Famer. I think his numbers are better than everybody else. His off field is what hurts him. Obviously, his comment when the alligator armed that ball in Philadelphia, said for who, for what. Voters don't forget that stuff, unfortunately. Should they determine him based on that? Absolutely not. But they don't forget that stuff. Philadelphia sure as heck didn't forget it for 3 years. There's no way voters in the Hall of Fame overlook that stuff. They just don't.
Yeah. Well,
Dwight Freeney, another one on that. Dwight Freeney, I think, is a Hall of Famer at some point. Great player.
Sometimes with this, you you wait your turn. Jerome Bettis.
Yeah. Art Monk and Tim Brown are two prime examples.
Their quote turn.
Yeah.
And
I think there's, especially certain positions, I think that wide receiver is one. And I think part of that is, and you hate to say it, but part of that's Jerry Rice. What he did he set the bar so high.
Sure.
And that's where, you look at what's below him. Chris Carter was a Hall of Famer and should have been on the first or second ballot. It took him how long to get in? Tim Brown, same thing. Right. Tim Brown absolutely was a Hall of Famer. Right. These guys took a while. Art Monk took a while to get in. Lynn Swann took a while to get in.
Right. Yeah.
And that's one of the positions. Like the other thing, kicker, I think, is another one that is very difficult.
Right.
Cornerback is another one that's difficult. There's so many positions, I think, and part of that goes back to your point. You can only vote for 5. You have to knock out a lot of them.
Phew, it's hard to get in because it's in the Baseball Hall of Fame. You need 75% to get in. It's extremely difficult. But the voters are allowed to vote
for up to 10.
They can vote for 10.
Yep.
But you have a group of writers that won't do it.
No.
And I'll give you an example. The Derek Jeter thing. Right, so let's get to Jeter for a moment. Yankee fans will complain that Dan Shaughnessy did not vote for Jeter. Oh, I can't believe it. Jeter should be unanimous. Okay. Did he get 75%?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. Is it good enough? That's all you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
There's no difference between unanimous and 75%.
Nope.
Okay. You know what they both do? They both mean you're a Hall of Famer.
They both put you in the Hall of Famer. Yep. Then people don't remember. Well, Yankee fans remember that, but most people do not remember at all what the percentage of the vote is. George Brett got 98%. Robbie Out got 77%. Both of them are 3,000 hits. Both of them are Hall of Famers.
Right.
There's no doubt about it. You look at the players that, to me, in my era, there was no better player than Ken Griffey Jr. And that includes Barry Bonds. I think Bonds, as good as he was, didn't have the complete tools that Griffey had. Griffey wasn't unanimous. That stuff to me, doesn't matter.
But it doesn't matter.
No.
Did you get in?
No. Yeah, that stuff to me. Now, you want to scrutinize as a person on the outside looking in. A vote becomes public. Somebody doesn't vote. You want to say, hey, why did you not vote for this guy? And they have to explain themselves. Okay, that's fine. But no, what the percentage of vote they get, who cares?
It doesn't matter.
No, they're in.
I've talked to Yankee fans, and I can't believe he did. I sit there and go, so his vote kept him out? No. He got it. I said, that's all that matters.
So if you're judging based on that, I'm going to go flip side on Yankee fans and say, you're going to tell me Mariano Rivera was better than Babe Ruth? Yeah. No. I don't think so, but Mo's a Hall of Famer and the greatest closer of all time. But Babe Ruth set the game of baseball.
I said, if you're going to ask me who should be unanimous Hall of Famers, I said, I don't know. I said, let's start with Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb. Let's go with Willie Mays, Hank Aaron.
Absolutely.
I said Cy Young, Warren Spahn.
Sure.
I said,
these guys are all.
They're all. I said they should all be unanimous. Ted Williams, Joe DiMaggio. I said they should all be unanimous. I said they're all better players, in my opinion, than the people you're arguing about.
Mm-hmm. By far. As good as Jeter. And look, Jeter was great. Postseason was even better.
Who would you rather have, Willie Mays or Derek Jeter?
You're going right where I'm going.
Okay, now we're talking
exactly.
Now we're talking great player versus great player here.
But there's not a comparison.
They're not unanimous.
Yeah, there's not a comparison.
Tom Seaver wasn't unanimous. Right? Hank Aaron wasn't unanimous. It doesn't matter. They got in.
That doesn't matter.
He got in the first time he was available. He's fine. He's making a lot of money off commercials. It's good.
He's fine. Yeah. He played in the number one city in the world. He played for the number one franchise in the world and had 3,000 hits.
He had made
acrobatic plays defensively.
He
had a great career.
Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
He earned it.
Absolutely. Yeah. But see, that's where Yeah, and that's where I go the same way you're going. You know, when they try to make that argument, I make the argument the other way. Look, I'm taking a lot of players over Derek Jeter, and that doesn't mean Jeter's not one of the greatest of all time. Right. He is.
Yeah, but that's what and people get offended when I say, what was the key to Derek Jeter defensively? Yeah. Tino Martinez
at
and
first.
Mark Teixeira.
Yeah.
Because when they weren't there, he struggled.
Yeah, he did. Sure did.
Derek Jeter was a good major league shortstop. Mm-hmm. He was not a great major league shortstop. And that's not a knock.
There are guys not in the Hall of Fame.
Did I say he was poor?
No.
Did I say he was mediocre? No. Did I say he was fair? No. I said he was good.
Nope.
Okay? There's nothing wrong with being good. No. He was a good shortstop.
Nope.
Right? But he wasn't a great shortstop.
Not one bit. There are guys that are not in the Hall of Fame defensively were better than Jeter. No question. Tony Fernandez comes to mind right away. It's not a doubt about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of Homer Vizquel. There's a lot of guys that absolutely. And that's where I turn the table on if they continue to argue that's where I turn the table and say, here, this guy. You can name a lot of guys, and that takes nothing away from Jeter. I think he's one of the top players of all time, but in my era, I think there are plenty of players that I would put above Jeter.
But people get bent out of shape over the silliest things.
Exactly. Right? Now, if he's not a Hall of Famer, that's a little different.
Now, if he ended up one vote short,
then well, the fact that he missed that many votes would.
Right. If he ended up one vote short, now you have a complaint.
Can't.
When you're one short vote of unanimous, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, the one that I go back on, and this was clearly, I think, in my opinion, retaliation, which it should not have been. You poll the people that didn't vote for Roberto Alomar and tell me, is he a Hall of Famer? That answer has got to be yes.
Sure.
Yeah, and I understand what he did. I really did. It was wrong. He was suspended for it.
Yep.
You don't spin on an umpire. I don't care how bad the umpire is that day.
Yep.
And I think the voters, for that reason, okay, we're going to keep him out for a year because of that. You can't do that. There are a lot of guys off the field were jerks, but I put them in the Hall of Fame. There are a lot of guys didn't like the media. I put him in the Hall of Fame. Eddie Murray, I put in the Hall of Fame. He wasn't great to the media. Barry Bonds wasn't great to the media. I know the cloud's over him. I put him in the Hall of Fame. I put him there. That's just me. But I do put Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame. To me, I didn't see 5 players better than Barry Bonds. And his fielding was terrible. But I still not sure.
Yet he won a lot of gold gloves.
Exactly. And I never saw somebody at the plate have better plate discipline than Barry Bonds. No, and I may never ever see it.
Yeah,
absolutely incredible.
Would I vote for Barry Bonds? Yes,
I would. And
at this point, I would. I would not. In other words, this would be my protest.
Yeah, I think you have to because
this would be my protest. You would not be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
No, for that reason, it's a little different.
I would wait until
I agree.
His third.
I agree.
I would wait till his third, but after that, from his third one on, I would vote for him. In other words, I would take away from him the first ballot Hall of Fame designation, which has some meaning to it.
Mm-hmm.
But then after that, I would. Same thing with Roger Clemens. And again, not the first
Clemens,
time
I think, without a doubt. Yeah, Clemens threw a better fastball than anybody that I ever saw. And Nolan Ryan threw 100 miles an hour at times. So Clemens to me was point on with his pitches. Clemens is one of the best I ever saw.
But again, no first ballot designation. I'd hold off till the third year.
Right.
Then years 3 through 10, I'd be voting for him every year because they've already paid the penalty of not being a first ballot or a second year. You make them wait till the third year.
Right.
That's what I would do.
I agree.
That's just me. And
there are some that they swear by it and say, "Hey, look, I will never ever vote for somebody that has been linked to performance enhancers." And look, that's their prerogative.
Sure, it's their vote. They have to vote.
Absolutely, it's their vote. But to me, I'm on the outside looking in. I vote for these guys. I certainly do. Not every one of them. Mark McGwire, I think, to me, performance enhancers benefited him in a big way. Sammy Sosa, same thing. These players are not on the level of the guys we just named.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's each one has its own category.
Right. Yeah, they do have their own categories, no question about that. There's a level to which you take it to.
Yeah.
So that's why.
There's also.
That's why when it comes to the Michigan situation, say they win the national title, I'm of a strong belief that when this whole thing is done, they'll get stripped of it.
Oh, there's no doubt.
And they can take the banner and they can put it right with the Final Four banners in the archives.
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree.
I think that is a possibility if they were to win it all.
Agreed.
So, I in the end, I think.
Yeah, and people don't forget, but you did. Reggie Bush does not have a Heisman Trophy. Does that mean he's not a Heisman Trophy winner that year? He should have it back. Agreed, 100%.
With all the rules that have
now been changed,
he should have it back.
Agreed.
The rules are not changing on this.
No.
The rules are not changing on this, and that's co-defensive coordinator, defensive line coach Sean Spencer, by the way, out at Florida.
I did say that, yeah.
So, Spence, a good
guy.
I like Spence.
Yeah, Spence is great, absolutely great guy, and Florida trying to clean house, and I think that's got to start at the top. I think to me that Florida State game showed me that Napier's lost that team. There's no doubt about it. You look at these players. Napier tries to prevent one from getting into a scuffle. He shoves him out of the way.
I know.
A player shoves James Franklin out of the way. What's James Franklin going to do about that? I don't think that's going to go over too well.
It's not going to go over big.
Yeah, I don't think so. Player shoves Nick Saban out of the way. Same thing. I don't think so.
Not going to happen.
You don't let players dictate what goes on. And I think Napier has done that at Florida.
Well, first of all, Napier, where was he? Louisiana Monroe?
Yeah.
Before. Okay. And had done well there.
Yeah.
But he was not the sexy hire.
No. Not what Mullen was.
That Florida demands.
Right.
And again, the Florida boosters, in the SEC, I don't know how you rank them. Auburn might be the worst. Texas A&M might be next.
I was going to say Texas A&M is 1B then. Yeah, because I would have put A&M number 1.
And 1C is Florida and 1D is Tennessee.
Yep.
Those four booster groups. Not Alabama, not Georgia. No. But those four booster groups have a lot of sway.
Mm-hmm. Well, you look at Florida. We talk about coaches where you run a coach out of town and you're not the same. Jeremy Foley and Steve Spurrier butt heads. Steve Spurrier goes away. That program has not been the same since Urban Meyer takes over. Yes, they win national championships there, but for the most part, that program has not been the same since.
It takes a while to get the right guy, contrary to what fans believe.
Agreed.
That you can wave a magic wand, bring in some name, and the name is going to be able to do it. That doesn't happen that often.
Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, have been the exception. But other than that, I think it is very difficult.
Well, let's do this in a college football mode. So let's take some of the biggest brands. Okay. As Georgia stayed with Mark Richt a long time, and they brought in Kirby Smart.
Sure.
Now they're a national champion. That's one where making the move worked out. Which other moves?
I was going to say, that's the one that everybody's going to reference because most of the other ones haven't worked out.
But that's adorable. That's one.
Exactly.
Where are the other ones? Give me your top 5. Oh, you can't give me your top 5. There isn't a top 5. There isn't.
I'm sure you give a top 3.
Right? So let's take, for example, Alabama, Bear Bryant. Right? Then Gene Stallings came in, and they won a national title. After that, how many people did they go through until finally, a decade and a half later, they get Nick Saban? Okay.
They had to cancel a series with Penn State because they didn't feel like they were on the level in 2004 and 5.
They postponed it to 10 and 11. Texas.
Texas is
they get rid of Mac Brown. How many people have they weeded their way through to finally they get to Steve Sarkisian? And we don't even know if he's the final answer. They're having a good year.
Yeah.
But is he the final answer? I don't know. I don't know, but they are having a good year. USC.
USC, for sure.
Post Pete Carroll. They have been weeding their way through. Get rid of this. No, nobody say. Right? And we don't even know if Lincoln Riley's the right answer. Right?
Not defensively, he's not.
Well, I'm saying, they're 7-5. Their offensive line is not very good either.
Offensive line certainly isn't.
So,
Miami, there's a lot of teams. Miami, I was going to say, Miami's a prime example. Nebraska's another example.
All the way through. Nebraska, Frank Solich wasn't good enough at 9 wins. Now, they finally got Bo Pelini, who got them to some level, and they got rid of him.
Get rid of him?
They ran him out. Not good enough, man. They're still weeding their way through.
I think LSU's another example.
Right? LSU, same thing. Going
a lot of these teams.
They can't settle on. Right? Notre Dame, before Brian Kelly, was like that.
Yeah.
Notre Dame was running through one guy after another.
Yeah. Tyrone Williams wins with other
Bob
recruits.
Davies. They're going through one guy after another. They finally, at least Brian Kelly stabilized it.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. But this is you're talking about like people going through the wilderness consistently for a decade and a half, one after another. Do you want to go through a decade and a half wandering through the wilderness trying to hope that you throw the dart and hit the right guy? Florida's in that spot right now.
Mm-hmm.
Florida State's in that spot.
Florida State's been in that spot for years. Norvell's done a better job now, but
Norvell finally hit some gold this year.
Yep.
But who knows how sustainable it is? I don't know. I don't go on 1 year.
No.
Okay?
Now, NIL is going to help Texas. I think that is where their location is. I think that will help them, but you don't know if Sark's the answer.
How much does it help Texas A&M? They've got they've got money all over the place.
There's no doubt about it.
You tell me where they are.
Yeah, no doubt.
You tell me where they are.
No doubt about it.
Right?
Yeah.
But you have a lot of the prime programs, fire this guy, fire this guy, fire this guy. And they may have been in the right mood to fire whomever at the time. I'm not saying.
Yeah.
Right? But you can't keep running through people all the time, right? And make it a carousel where there's no stability in the program.
The other thing you got to be careful with is how you fire somebody, too. Right. That's another thing that set some of these programs back.
I mean, we'll see how Venables does at Oklahoma, but post Stoops, that's what's going to Riley ended up leaving on his own.
Yep.
But you have a lot of people going through coaches trying to get themselves to the promised land, and the bottom line is that are some better than others? Yeah, but you're also trying to hit gold at a certain point because Saban at Michigan State was okay.
Yeah,
he did did he do a good job? He did a good job. Did he do a great job? No, he did a good job. Okay. Well, he had more leeway at LSU. We'll leave it at that. He had more leeway at LSU, one. And I think he actually did better with the Dolphins than he's given credit for.
Yeah, I think he did a decent job. I agree. And I think Pete Carroll did better Pete Carroll wasn't great his first stint around, but I think he did better than he gets credit for.
Well,
Patriots were a playoff team.
I mean, Patriots, Jets.
Jets weren't bad.
Right. Yep. You're like, okay.
You make the argument Dennis Erickson in Seattle wasn't terrible. He was awful in San Francisco, but in Seattle, he really wasn't that bad. He was 7-9.
But it's interesting with Carroll. Like, I remember when he was hired at USC. I was like, okay. Because to that point in the NFL, he'd been like, okay. I'm like, okay, we'll see how he does there. And it turned out to be, now they had a little leeway as to what they did. That's why they did end up, to their credit, with 75 scholarships for a few years. Okay, great. But he did well there. But again, all these people, all these top programs, one of the more important things that you need to do when you're in a position of leadership is you need to block out the outside noise.
Absolutely. It does lead, I think, is literally the thing for me. Be a leader.
Now, if there are a couple of people that you trust that come up to you and say, hey, look, can I talk to you for a second? I'm really uncomfortable with this, and this. My gut's telling me we need to change. Now, again, these are people you trust, whose judgment you trust. Okay, you can't listen to the outside noise.
No.
Right? The outside noise doesn't know on an everyday basis what people are dealing with and some of the circumstances behind it. I know you'll hear, well, those are excuses. Okay. The insurance company isn't going well. What are you, could you tell me some reasons why? And do you want me to tell you they're all excuses?
Yeah.
No. Okay. In other words, there are reasons why. They aren't. I remember one time somebody said to me, I was explaining, I can't even remember what it was. It was back when Joe was the coach, and I was explaining something about where they were. I think it was about linebackers. And I think the comment was, they don't play the best people. Like, I said, best people? I said, what? I said, I'm at practice every day. I said, I can assure you that right now, I said, they may not be the best players in the conference.
Yeah.
But on this team, they're the best players. They were talking about Benfatti and about Williams, the two walk-on linebackers.
Yeah.
Remember that? I said, right now, they're the best players at those spots. No way, they got a 4-star. I'm sitting there going, I said, I'm at practice every day. I said, when you start practice in the preseason, I said, do you know what star ranking you are at that moment? Yeah. I says, what? I said, a no-star.
Nobody. Yeah.
I said, you're a no-star. Everybody has to earn their spot. I
agree.
said, the people you're talking about, I said, have great potential, but they haven't earned their spot yet.
Right.
I said, at least I have the advantage of visually seeing it every day. I said, so I can see why these guys are playing and why somebody else is not playing. I said, at some point that may change this year. I said, but right now, to this point, the light hasn't gone on yet to have them go past these people.
Right.
Now, was that answer good enough for said individual in the pregame show? I don't think he was happy with the answer, which he's entitled to not be happy with the answer. But to be honest with you, the answer I gave him was the answer. And that's why I gave him the answer. I was directly honest with him as to why they were doing that. Okay. Got a bunch of text messages here about thanks so much for not mentioning the 49ers.
I'll
Great,
tell
there's
you.
no Niners talk today.
All week it's going to be.
There's no, where's the 49 good San Francisco seconds? This one here, I'd much rather hear about Patches the dog.
Oh, that's not fair.
I mean, it's not fair. What do you mean it's not fair, though?
That
Patches the dog.
I'll tell you.
I mean, come on. We just went through Thanksgiving week, and I was shocked when you gave me your list of what you're thankful for. Patches didn't make the cut.
Didn't make the cut.
Didn't make the cut.
Just barely missed.
You're not endearing yourself to the American public.
Well, wearing a Flyers shirt doesn't help either.
Yeah, that just screams I'm a champion. All right, or maybe that you're not close to being one. But Ed, Marguerite, thank you so much for the very kind gift. I really appreciate it. It means more than you know that you would even think of me in some small way. So thank you so much. And we'll talk to you tomorrow here on Seven Mountains Media.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a Seven Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk with Steve Jones.